Hi and good morning. First, I'd like to start off by thanking you all for subscribing and being here. This is a new adventure for me. If you're here from TikTok, thank you for joining. I'm really excited to be doing this. It's gonna be pretty raw and full of emotion. There's a lot of guidelines with TikTok and things like that that can't really be shared, and that's more for my daughter anyway. So I just really wanted an outlet for myself where I could really just be raw and real, and I could just explain and vent and show you guys really what this life is about, because it's hard. It's hard, and I'm only new to this. I'm only just starting out. Just to get started, my name is Gigi. We meaning myself, my daughter, my husband, are Gigi_UnbreakableBT on TikTok. She does have a Facebook and an Instagram, and I also have an Instagram. We are very active with our followers. We try to talk to as many as we can. I try to help as many as I can, especially those moms struggling and fighting for change, struggling for the doctors to listen and for diagnosis, and just to be acknowledged that there is something in fact wrong and that we are not in fact crazy. With that being said, I'd like to just, as my first video, kind of just share Brooke's story and some of the struggles and feelings that I went through in the very beginning. Because it always starts off, right, like fairy tale, like you're pregnant and it's your first baby. Some of you, it's not your first baby, but for us it was. And Beau and I have been together since I'm 19 years old, and he's 20, and I'm 32 now, and he's 33. So we've been together for a long time, and we did everything the right way. We worked really hard. We're both paramedics. We did the whole, move in together, get an apartment, and then we got married. We bought a house. We did it the way that we were told it was supposed to go, right? So you would think white picket fence, No, that's definitely not how it was. With that being said, in 2018, we decided that we were gonna get pregnant. So we found out in August that I was pregnant. We didn't know it was a girl yet. And I was going through some issues at work where they had actually fired me for social media policy. And they kind of witch hunted me for some things that I can't really get into. When I found out I was pregnant, I was going through something called arbitration, which is basically like a mini court. And I believe that the stress from that may have caused everything that Brooke has, her genetic mutation. Although the doctors have told me that that's not accurate, that it's not true, that this was something that I couldn't have controlled, and there was nothing that I could have done for this. I do believe that I am to blame for this. And that's part of being a special needs mom. You always have mom guilt. No matter which way you go, no matter what the doctors tell you, you have mom guilt. And that's something that we're going to talk about later on. Anyway, so I did what I needed to do. I fought to get my job back because they really didn't have a right to fire me. And I got my job back. So everything was fine. I got all my time back. It was I never left, anything like that, right? But here I am pregnant, coming back to work. And mind you, I'm a paramedic. So I'm in an ambulance. So I'm out on the street up until January. January, I go inside behind a desk. And, we go for our 20-week anatomy scan, and the doctor and the ultrasound tech is having a difficult time with Brooke's anatomy, and to be specific, her head. Now, my entire pregnancy, Brooke was head down. She didn't really move, and I kind of thought that was a little strange, but I nobody said anything. Nobody did anything. And this is my first pregnancy. I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm listening to doctors and their direction. And I'm not even talking to other moms at this point because I don't think anything is wrong. Had I known what I know now, I would have done things so completely different, which is another part of my mom guilt. But if you don't know, you don't know. So anyway, so they're having trouble finding Brooke's anatomy. They had me do the whole jump up and down and drink orange juice and, try to move her with my stomach, like with my hands, and, go on all fours and like rock myself back and forth. Like they had me do everything. We were there for 3 hours in the office, and they came to us and they were like, listen, it's positional. We can't get a clear head, like a clear picture of her head. And we need you to come back in a week. Maybe she'll move. Okay, no problem. At this point, we didn't even know she was a girl yet. So we come back in a week. She's in the same position. So now they're using the probe, like the vaginal probe, and they still can't get a clear picture. They make me come back in another week. Like at this point, I'm like, guys, what's going on here? Do we know if our baby is healthy or not? Like, what's the problem? So we're there. Now it's week 3. And they're doing the same thing. She's in the same position and nobody thinks it's odd. So they come back at 2 hours later and they go, listen, we think that we got everything that we need. We think everything is fine. So we're going to go with her brain is okay. And we pretty much have what we need. Okay, no problem. Well, 9 weeks later, I'm back there for another routine ultrasound, and they tell me that my amniotic fluid is dangerously low and I need to be hospitalized. I'm like, what? What do you mean? Now, I didn't know it was high risk. We did all the testing, all the genetic testing, everything. We tested her for everything, whatever we did everything short of an amniocentesis because it wasn't warranted. So they're like, well, you need to go to the hospital. We just got to get you, overnight, maybe some fluids and it'll bring it back up. No problem. You might just be a little dehydrated. Okay. So I go to the hospital and I get admitted into labor and delivery, and they can't move me anywhere because my amniotic fluid is so low. I was under a 0.5. I'm sorry. I was under a 5 centimeter for fluid, and you should be anywhere between 10 to 12. And I'm in labor and delivery. I can't leave. And the suites that I was in was gorgeous. So I'm not really I'm complaining, but I'm not complaining. You know what I mean? Because it could always be worse. Like I could have had a roommate that would have been screaming her head off all night or whatever. So they come in the morning and they're like, we're going to do another ultrasound. We gave you fluids all night. I couldn't leave the bed. They didn't want me. They had me on complete bed rest. So I was stuck in the bed. I had to go on bedpans. And they do another ultrasound. They're like, your fluid is down to a 3. You can't go home. I said, what? What do you mean? Well, but what's going on? They told me that they didn't know what was going on. They couldn't explain it. They were doing blood work. They were running labs. They were doing ultrasounds. They had no idea why this was happening. So fast forward 29 days later. Yep, you heard that right. 29 days later. I'm hospitalized still from that day, from the first day, with ultrasounds every 3 days. Blood work constantly. I look like a pincushion because I have to change your IV every 3 days also. And I go into labor. Brooke is 36 weeks at this point. I'm sorry, 34. She's 34 weeks, not 36. She's 34 weeks, so she's 6 weeks early. And she had some she had some issues during my birthing experience. Not birthing injury, but while I was being dilated and while they were giving me the epidural, she went into distress. So during my 29 weeks, I had been brought into the OR on 3 different occasions to have an emergency C-section. And then Brooke decided that she was going to stop her shit. So, which she's still that way now. So then so they have to put like all kinds of things, like a monitor on her head and like do like infusions and things like that in my uterus. So I have all kinds of wires up my hoo-ha, and then 12 hours later, I have Brooke, and she's beautiful. She's crying. She's got 10 fingers. She's got 10 toes. She's got 4 arms, 2 arms and 2 legs, 2 eyes, 2 ears, a beautiful nose. Like, she's beautiful. And here's your happy, healthy, premature baby. She's going to go into the NICU until she can gain her weight up at 4 ounces, 4 pounds, 17 ounces. Okay, great. Perfect. So she's in the NICU. She gets an NG tube because her suck swallow, she didn't want to latch on. That was the other thing. Nobody came into my room to tell me that, how to breastfeed. My aunt tried to show me while she was there. And nobody tried to tell me how to breastfeed. So Brooke was born April 6, 2019, at 2:16 in the morning. So nobody showed me how to breastfeed. Nobody told me what I needed to do. I'm this brand new mom. I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm walking down a long tunnel blind with no lights. And Brooke was in the NICU for 8 days. She had bilirubin. She, started taking the bottle, and they wouldn't let us leave unless she gained a couple of pounds, and she did. And we brought her home. She was in preemie clothes, and everything was, what we thought was good. So at this point, like, she's still too little. So you don't know that anything is wrong. You don't know her, the normal behavior that they're supposed to be displaying and things like that. So here I am at home with this beautiful baby and my husband, and, life is great. Like, okay, we had a bad pregnancy experience. I'm kind of scarred for life. I definitely have PTSD from it, which is totally real. I start going into a postpartum depression, and especially because I was stressing myself out that my milk just wasn't coming in and I couldn't breastfeed my own child. I went on an aggressive breast pump schedule to the point where I was only getting 1 hour of sleep every 3 hours for the entire day. So I was exhausted, to say the least. We still did what we needed to do. Brooke's gonna be 2 now, so I obviously did something right. Dad and I did something right. So anyway, I start noticing like this white patch on her side over here. Like, this is weird. What is this? And like, guys, I'm a paramedic. I kind of know some stuff. Not a lot, some, just a little bit. Just a little bit, right? Okay, cool. So I'm like, this is weird. This isn't right. It's fine. It's just a birthmark. It's nothing. Maybe it's a little rash. Put a little Aquaphor on it. Like, it's nothing, right? Cool. So I see more and more of it coming, and I'm like, this isn't right. Like, we're, something's just not right. Like, my mom's senses were tingling all over my body, and I'm like, something is not right here. Besides the fact that Brooke was actually allergic to the formula. So we finally get her into GI. She had a cow's milk protein allergy and was bleeding. She had blood in her stool. So we got the formula changed finally, when she was about like 7 months old. So that calmed her down GI wise, thankfully. But she I mean, it just started appearing more and more, this white like swirl that like it was on her side and like went to her back and like swirled up her shoulder. And then I'm looking at her and I see it all on her arm and I'm like, Bo, what is this? I've never seen this before. She's just progressing. Like her body's developing. Like her skin still needs time to develop. Okay. Like she's not even 3 months old yet. And I'm like, something's not right here. I don't like this. I bring her to dermatology. The first guy nailed it right on. We thought he was crazy. Diagnosed Brooke with hypomelanosis of Ito syndrome. Now, me being me, the mom that I am, the paramedic that I am, I Google, because what do you do when a doctor tells you something? You fucking Google that shit, right? Bad move, guys. Bad move. You want to talk about a deep, dark rabbit hole of Google and WebMD? Right here. I put myself in such a depression. I made myself sick to the point that I wasn't eating because I couldn't figure it out, and I was a nervous wreck that there was something horribly wrong with my child that nobody caught on to. I do want to put out there, and again, this is special needs mom, the good, bad, and the ugly. So this is the ugly part, guys, and you can agree to disagree. I hope you don't judge me based off of this, but you got to understand, Bo and I are paramedics. We've seen a lot of shit in our day. We've seen a lot of kids that are on vents and they just sit there and they have no quality of life, and they literally are, they don't do anything. They're just, flesh and bones with machines. And that's not something that we ever wanted, because we've seen it, because we have had our fair share of interaction with family members who have kids like that. That's not something that we wanted. And we had agreed early on, many, many, many years ago, that if we knew that there was something that would inhibit the quality of life of Brooke, that we would terminate the pregnancy. And I just want to be clear on this. I don't mean like Down syndrome or, autism or any, which obviously can't be diagnosed in utero. But I just want to be clear on that. Like if they told me that Brooke's brain was underdeveloped and her quality of life would be zilch, I would terminate, because I don't want to put another human being through pain and suffering that they don't deserve. That's just my point of view. You can agree to disagree. That's very okay. I know a mom who was told to terminate the pregnancy. Her daughter has Cushing's disease. Her daughter has no quality of life. She came to me, and I've known this woman for a very, very, very long time. I've transported her daughter to the hospital many, many times, to many doctor's appointments. I'm family friends with all of them. And she came to me and she said, if I could do it all over again, I would never put my child through this. My child is suffering and my entire family is suffering. And that's the ugly of this, because at that point, what do you do? Anyway, I'm off on a tangent, but it is what it is. You don't have to agree with me. That's okay. I was not made to be a special needs mom. I mean, a lot of you would probably smack me right now, knowing me now and knowing how, I'm just going to say, like, how badass I am at being a special needs mom. Just saying. I'm just kidding. But seriously, like, when I was pregnant, I was mortified. I didn't think I could do it. I didn't think I was this strong. I did not think I was this strong at all. I didn't think I was as strong as the family that I knew, as the mom that I knew, as other people. I didn't think so. So I bring Brooke to 3 more dermatologists, and And 2 said, nope, it's just a birthmark. And then the last one said, nope, this is hypomelanosis of Ito. Let's take a Woods lamp to her. Take a Woods lamp, which, if you guys don't know, it's kind of like a black light, but it's specially made for the skin. So it also brings out like cancers on the skin, right? Brooke just lit up like a Christmas tree on her entire left side. Just lit up. And she looked at me and she goes, listen, obviously you've done your research, because I'm not the only one who told you this. She goes, but you need to go to genetics. You have to go to genetics. We don't know how progressed this is going to be. We don't know. It varies depending on severity, depending on how the mutation is. I'm a fucking basket case. Like, I can't fucking function at this point. So we get on the horn with genetics. We go to genetics, and she is phenomenal. I love her. She's wonderful. She starts getting the ball rolling. They want to do a skin biopsy. So with Brooke's mutation with the hypomelanosis of Ito, she has light skin and dark skin. It's similar to vitiglio, but not. And the way that they describe Brooke's skin pattern, her mosaicism, it's what it's called, is lace, which I love. And I love Brooke's pattern. I would love nothing more than to get my entire arm tattooed in the exact pattern that she has. I think her markings are absolutely gorgeous. And, so we start doing the genetic search. And then my geneticist says, listen, there's no guarantee that Northwell here is going to be able to find this. And I think that it's better off if we branch out into multiple genetic agencies. So here's Undiagnosed Networks, here's Columbia, here's GeneDx. I want you to apply for all of them. I'm going to write you a letter. We're going to get you in, hands down. Great. So here we are in 4 genetic studies, right? Perfect. Well, now it's September of 2019. Brooke is 4 months old, 5 months old, somewhere over there. And she is vomiting diarrhea like crazy. So we bring her into the hospital per the pediatrician. We were trying to give her Pedialyte at home to keep her at home. Wasn't working. So we bring her into the hospital. Brooke starts, guys, again, this is the good, bad, and the ugly. So don't come at me. Do not come for me. I'm telling you now. Bo is holding Brooke, and we're in the emergency room, and her head, it goes all the way over. Like, I thought she was going to break her neck, and her arms go out, and she is doing one of these. Bo goes, I'm like, Bo, what is she doing? Is she having a seizure? Nah, she's looking at the wall. She's looking at all the stuff on the wall. Now, I had always said that there was a thing with Brooke's, eyesight, but developmental, right? So it turns out that Brooke was actually having a seizure, and she ended up having 4 of them in the emergency room while Bo was holding her, and the last one was right in front of one of the emergency room doctors. Instantly admitted. They called a rapid response team right then and there, and it was like a snowball, like a little tiny pebble down a cliff that just went and went and went and went and went until it was this enormous boulder that smashed right into my life. So Brooke was admitted to a hospital over here called Cohen's Children's Hospital, which at the time we thought was the best. So They do an EEG, they do an MRI, they do a CAT scan, they do the whole thing. The neurology team comes to us and sits us down and they go, "We have some unfortunate news for you." Okay. "We have to tell you that your daughter has been confirmed to have a underdeveloped brain called polymicrogyria. She will most likely be delayed her entire life, and she will most likely have seizures her entire life." Now, I've gotten bad news before, but getting news like that was like a punch to the gut with a baseball bat that had been sitting in a fireplace, like a metal one, right? That had been sitting in a fireplace for hours. I felt like I couldn't breathe. I was kind of numb at first. My family was really worried about me. They didn't really know what to say. So Bo and I were kind of in shock. And we didn't really know what to do. Now, we obviously knew that there was going to be something with Brooke. And to be quite honest with you, I was kind of waiting for that other shoe to fall off, because hypomelanosis sevito is highly associated with seizures. But man, we were hoping hard that they weren't going to hit. And they ended up coming. And we don't know if a vaccine did it. Again, this is the good, bad, and the ugly, guys. So this is shit that I don't talk about on TikTok. I'll be honest with you. I'm not an anti-vaxxer, but I do happen to believe that a vaccine started her seizures, or at least was the trigger. So they had told us that there's a good chance that Brooke was having seizures since she was born and that nobody caught it. I have been looking back at videos, and I think I might see what they're talking about. I look back at videos now and I'm like, I don't understand how I didn't see that anything was wrong. How the fuck was I so stupid? How the fuck could I be a paramedic and not know what the fuck is going on with my child? What's wrong with me? I'm a new mom. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I still don't know what I'm doing, guys. I mean, shit. So anyway, Brooke's in the hospital for 2 weeks. EEG, MRI, CAT scan, the whole bit. They diagnosed her also with epilepsy, and they start her on phenobarbital, then they moved to phenytoin. They put her on the Keppra. They immediately had to take her off the phenobarbital because it did not work. And they put her on the Keppra and the Vimpat before we were discharged. It wasn't really working. I don't know. So Brooke ended up, I'm trying to think of exactly like the chain of events that happened that month, because she was hospitalized for 2 weeks, twice between September and October of 2019. One time she had RSV, the other time was for all of her diagnoses that they started giving us. So October, she had the RSV. We were there for 2 weeks. Now I'm back and forth to this whack job neurologist, and I'm telling him Brooke is doing this like crunching thing. It looks like that my child is crunching. I don't get it. Now at this point, Brooke should be rolling over. She should be picking her head up. She should be wanting to be on her stomach, doing tummy time, all things like that. Nothing. She, if we were lucky, would roll to one side. That was it. So now I'm starting to get the ball rolling with early intervention. And like, we need services. Like, she needs services. I don't know what you guys want to do, but my kid obviously needs something. I took to Facebook so hard. And keep in mind, I'm still working at this point. I'm at work still. So then the jackknifing thing happened, and this neurologist was not listening to me. I brought her into the office and I showed him videos, and he goes, well, I don't really feel it's necessary to put her back on the EEG. We're just going to open up a can of worms. So let's just increase both of the medications. I go, is this really how this works? We're just going to keep increasing medications like it's a quick fix. There's obviously something going on. Obviously the medication ain't fucking working. So what are we doing here? That was my straw. I ended up taking it to Facebook. I was graciously given a different neurologist who's our current epileptologist and genetic neurologist, who we currently go to at Stony Brook Children's Hospital. And he is phenomenal. It just so happened that one of my friends from high school ended up working for his office and was able to get me into an appointment that week. He was booked out for months, guys, for months. So we go in, and right off the bat, he was explaining things. He looked at her MRI. He called up the other neurologist's office and asked for all of her medical records. He had everything before we even walked in the door. And he's like, listen, I don't like the pre-2-year-old MRIs. They're not clear. They're not very clear. We're going to say she has the polymicrogyria, but I want to wait till she's 2 years old to definitely give her that diagnosis. But we're going to say that she has it for now. Okay, so we were hopeful. Again, definitely had epilepsy without a shadow of a doubt. So he wanted to put her on something called Onfi or clobazam. But when I showed him the videos of her jackknifing, he was like, oh no. Oh, hell no. He goes, we have to send you to the emergency room. I go, why? He goes, we got to get you in for an EEG like right now. So he's explaining to us what infantile spasms are. And the way that they explain it is called chaos on the brain. Basically nothing's functioning. Nothing. So I'm going to show you what it was looking like, what Brooke was doing. And this was pretty severe. It was 2 weeks from when she had first started the jackknifing. So she was kind of, it was kind of bad. Like, she wasn't really like doing anything. So typical IS when it first starts is the arms go out, the shoulders will shrug up, you get the head drop, but the eyes roll up. So you get all at one shot like that. That's typical IS. When you have it as severe as Brooke had it, she was completely jackknifing with her eyes rolling up. So Brooke would bring her legs and crunch up, her arms in, and her eyes would roll back. So she was like crunching, but like, and she was tensing up and holding it. I knew something was wrong. So we get her into the hospital. And this is where it gets bad. We get admitted. They confirm that it's infantile spasms, and they immediately call for a medication called ACTH. Now they had started her on prednisolone, a high dose of prednisolone, and it wasn't working, and they knew it wasn't working. So they put in for the ACTH, and that's something that's so expensive. So Brooke started blowing up, and they said to us, they go, listen, she's going to be really uncomfortable. She's probably going to develop diabetes from this. It could affect her heart. It could affect her blood pressure, but she needs it. And the way that it's administered is it's 2 injections. It's IM, so in the muscle, injections, and they do it in the thighs. So she had to get 2 a day, 1 in the morning and 1 at night. And we would alternate legs. And you have to check the sugar before and after, 15 minutes before and after the shot. So we were in Stony Brook for 29 days. And the only reason why I know exactly it was 29 days is because they told me had we stayed 1 more day, Brooke would have automatically been enrolled in Medicaid instead of me having to fight for it for the 8 months. So now my child is going through a month worth of high dose steroids. She's completely swollen. She doesn't even look like herself. And I'm there with her. I at this point had to take a leave of absence from work. So I was switching on and off with my mom and Bo, and I'm living at the hospital. So Brooke ended up getting high blood pressure from it. And then the left side of her heart enlarged from it about a week in. So Brooke was getting emergency blood pressure medication because they couldn't control her blood pressure. And one night, Brooke's blood pressure was so high that they called a rapid response and they were gonna intubate her. Just to try and control it. And the doctor pulled me aside and said to me that she might not make it through the next couple of days if they can't control her blood pressure. Because she'll eventually stroke out. So Bo and I had not gotten Brooke baptized yet at this point. And we had sat down and we decided that we needed to get her baptized because we weren't sure what was going to happen. So we had gotten all the approval through the hospital, and our family came and we had Brooke baptized in the hospital. I know some of you who are watching this level with me and know what that feels like to almost lose your child. I know some of you have lost your child, and I know some of you have no idea what this feeling is like. I really thought I was just gonna end everything if she died. I thought really long and hard about it, about how I would do it. I said, if my baby is going, I'm going too. Because I can't walk this earth without her. And, it's a really scary place to be in. It's a very dark, scary place to be in. And you feel so alone. And you feel like nothing is gonna save you other than things just working out. And fortunately, they did. Because Brooke is a fighter. I don't know where she gets this strength from, but man, this kid could move mountains with the amount of things she's been through. So now we're at the point where we're weaning off of the high dose, and I was petrified. The infantile spasms were controlled. They were becoming controlled. She wasn't having them, but man, was she cranky. She just wanted to eat and eat and eat because it's what the steroids make you do. She just wanted to be held 24/7. She didn't want to move. She didn't want to open up her eyes. She just wanted to be snuggled and to eat all the time. And one point she stopped eating and they ended up putting an NG tube in during this whole thing, this 4 weeks. So we're weaning her off, and she doesn't no longer has to have the emergency blood pressure medication, which is good. So now they're telling me it's completely abnormal for us to be there the entire cycle of the steroid. Like, it's unheard of. They've never had that before. And while we were there, Gene DX wanted blood work from us and from Brooke, and Stony Brook wouldn't give them the authorization to draw the labs and give it to them and send it out. So they sent us cheek swabs. If you are on a gene journey for your child, I say to this day, we would have never found Brooke's genetic mutation had we not did the cheek swab. Okay? Brooke's genetic mutation is 16% in her saliva, less than 2% in her blood, and where they did the skin biopsy, less than 1%. Go figure. So that's when we ended up doing the cheek swab. So now we get discharged, we come home, we're trying, she's crabby, and we're going back and forth to doctors, and now I'm like, well, I want a second opinion. Like, I want a second opinion on what's going on with her brain. And one place is telling me she's definitely got it. The other one's saying, it's not really confirmed, and we're going to say that she has it, but we're not convinced that she has it, and this and that. So I'm like, I'm getting on the phone with Boston Children's. So I call Boston Children's and they give me an appointment, and we end up running a fundraiser. Now so she's hospitalized for a month from November to December. We spent Thanksgiving in the hospital. I almost spent my birthday and Christmas in the hospital, but we didn't have to. So the appointment that they were able to give us was for February. So we ended up holding a fundraiser in January because Bo and I have been out of work now. Well, I'm out of work, and Bo's trying to be in work, but with everything going on, it's splotchy. It's like, hit and miss if he can go or not. So we do the fundraiser. We raise like $9,000 to help us pay our bills, pay for medical expenses for Brooke, and to be able to go to Boston. And we were up there for a while. And it paid for the hotel room for us because the Ronald McDonald House was under construction, so they didn't have any rooms available. And we get up there and they review everything, and they're like, she's definitely got the polymicro, and it's on both sides. It's in her frontal lobe and in her perisylvian lobes, but it's scattered. It's like patches. It's not the whole thing. So at this point, we're like, well, we still don't have a genetic diagnosis yet, but we know that this is genetics and it's not hereditary. She didn't get it from me and Bo. So how the did this happen? They're telling us that her egg mutated within the first 2 weeks that it dropped and then was fertilized. So before the egg even attached to the uterine wall, this was already set in motion. It just happened to be the way that our geneticist told us is that we won the lottery of genetics. I wouldn't consider this, I mean, I would prefer the actual lottery versus this, but whatever. So now we're in February of 2020. And I have already started the TikTok thing, but I wasn't so active with it. It was kind of like, I was kind of just doing it to pass the time. And I really didn't start getting into TikTok big until over this summer. So we were like, now COVID's hitting. We had made it up to Boston, and now we're in February, March. COVID hits. So we spent Brooke's first birthday. I had to cancel her birthday. We spent her first birthday at the house doing a virtual thing. I go live on Facebook for the family. And I'm still out of work, so I decided I'm gonna do like balloons and shit like that, right? And it turns out I'm actually pretty fucking good at it. Kind of weird, like who would? And I don't mean like balloons, like balloon animals. Like I do like balloon sculptures. Like I can make fucking an elephant out of balloons that I can wear, like a costume. So I start this business called Gigi's Imagination to kind of help me with some like just cash, like just to get me through. So doing that, Brooke's in and out of the hospital. I'm solely taking care of everything. Now we're like, the infantile spasms are being completely controlled. She's on she's on clobazam, she's on Vimpat, she's on Keppra, and we're like, maybe we should try CBD. Okay. We'll try CBD. Great. So we try the CBD. Boston calls us and they're like, listen, we found this relatively new study that suggests that chemotherapy, this particular chemo, aids in the the halting of the reproduction of the mutation. So like as new cells are being made, the new cells will not be mutated. They'll be normal cells to help with development and the seizures and things like that. It's kind of like a one-stop medication. The way that they had explained it over the phone is like, instead of 7 medications to cover 7 different problems, we're going to try one medication to cover all seven problems. It's because we're just masking everything with all these different medications. I was like, great, I'm on board. Like, what do we have to worry about? Hair loss, sores in the mouth, autoimmune, and they're like, pump the brakes, autoimmune, ding, 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 COVID's around. Let's put a halt on it. Okay. So we put a halt on it. So we're waiting. I'm like searching through the internet. I asked them for some kind of, information on it so I can look. I put a bunch of posts out in mom groups and things like that. And I find one family using the same chemotherapy that their daughter's been on for 5 years. And beautiful Daphne has not the same genetic mutation as Brooke, but similar. It's the same gene, which is why she's on the same medication. So we end up finding out, Brooke's genetic mutation, the MTOR, and her variant, and the yada yada. She's the only one documented in the world with it, and it's a new discovery, and we don't really know much about it other than everything that she's got and blah, blah, blah. Okay, great. Obviously, we're like, great. So our kid is one of a kind. All that nonsense. Cool. So here we are trying, during COVID, we're quarantined. Bo's working. He's running his ass off, trying to go from patient to patient to patient and all this nonsense, right? Seeing dead body after dead body after dead body. He ends up going into a deep depression, and I'm just trying to work to make some extra money doing the balloons and shit like that. So, I'm just trying to hold it down at home while he's getting his ass kicked at work, being, on the front lines. So now I start, everybody's doing the birthday parades. So I'm doing the birthday parades just to try and pass the time. And I'm getting clients from the birthday parades. And I'm still waiting for them to start the chemo when they want to start it. And finally, we pull the plug around like July. I'm like, we're going to start this. Like, it's starting, COVID's starting to like hinder down a little bit. It's not as bad. We're not at the peak anymore. Let's try it. So we put her on it, and of course she had the honeymoon phase like she does with all of her other medications, but she's great for the first 2 weeks, and then after that, oogats. So here we are, multiple hospitalizations, multiple increases on the medication, multiple EEGs, and it's like the same old song and dance all over again. It's, how many fucking times are we going to end up back in the hospital? How many times am I going to live in this hospital? How many times are we going to come back here for the same shit? Like, it's the same thing. And I feel like if it wasn't for the seizures, it wouldn't be so damn bad. But we got these fucking seizures that we can't fucking control because she's got intractable epilepsy, and they're killing her brain cells. One cell at a time. They're just killing her cells one after the other. So now, come like, I don't even remember what month it is, because at this point everything is just meshing together. But we're in February of 2021 right now, and I'm starting this vlog. But somewhere between November and December, the fucking spasms come back. So now we try this medication called vigabatrin. But in between, Brooke gets diagnosed with like a bunch of more shit, cortical visual impairment. So now she's deemed legally blind. She's, I finally get the Medicaid for her. I have a handicap sticker for her now because of the seizures. So here we are. Brooke's about to be 2. She still doesn't sit unassisted, but she's getting kind of close. I finally got the phone call after fighting for months and months and months. At one point, I turned around and I was like, listen, if we're going to keep doing this virtual fucking, the virtual therapies, like, just don't even bother. My kid's not getting anything out of it, and all you're doing is irritating my fucking day. So find people who are willing to come in here. Like, my kid's on chemotherapy. She's got an immune deficiency. If they're not okay with the fact that I sanitize the shit out of my fucking house, then I don't need them here anyway. My physical therapist was A-okay with coming in. Thank goodness. So she starts coming in. I get the phone call last week that they finally found, so we're in an agency called Angela's House, and I have a fantastic care manager who she handles all of my early intervention things. So she calls me up and she goes, listen, I found OT, I found speech and swallow, and I'm on the horn with the Commission for the Blind. I'm going to find you a vision therapist, and we're going to find somebody to teach Brooke either Braille or tactile ASL. And I was like, boom, this is a fucking win for me. This is a win because now I'm like, we're finally moving in the direction that we need to. But man, did I fight. And that's going to be a different video. So here we are. We're in February of 2021. You guys who are following me from TikTok know I'm currently back at work, and I'm working 2 full-time jobs plus the part-time, the per diem at the fire department. I'm at work making this vlog right now just to kind of introduce you guys to me and give you a little backstory about us. We do have like the story that you can read in Brooke's merch store. So you can read that. You can buy, t-shirts, whatever you want, support Brooke, all of that. We're in the middle of trying to get a foundation going, which we're right there. I'm just waiting for the paperwork. And that's going to be another video. So on that note, I'm going to go get myself some dinner. However, that was the beginning of Brooke's journey and some of the things that we went through. That's how I ended up here. That's how we ended up where we are. I'm now starting my vlog because I want the raw, I can't be raw on TikTok. So I want raw here. And here, that's where we're at. So thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening to the last hour and 15 minutes or so of this video. I'm going to try to keep them shorter from this point forward. I don't know what my next video is going to be about, but I do know that I want to talk about fighting doctors at some point and the battle between that and how exhausting it is, and some of the most ridiculous things that doctors have ever said to me, but that's for a whole nother thing. So thank you for being here. I appreciate you. And you guys from TikTok know the motto. Stay blessed, make good choices, and positive vibes only, guys. Thank you.